Hey now and welcome. This is an emergency broadcast of the Bergie and Booker show. He's Big Ten Bergie, although this is ACC news. I'm just Booker Corrigan bringing it to you. Bergie, big news breaking today. Florida State jumping in the game. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I love that Florida State is getting into Division I women's lacrosse. The rumor had been out there for several months, if not 2 years, that they were going to add it. It really picked up a lot of steam recently with them complaining about that, with their, I guess, inequality at Florida State, maybe with the Title IX, they needed to get a team going. But it's brought up a lot of interesting questions. Number one, the ACC now is, not that it wasn't before, but the ACC, the conference on the women's side is just does nothing but expand every couple of years.
Massive.
Everybody in Clemson got big and got good quickly, but Pitt added a women's team. Virginia Tech's added a women's team. It's a huge conference now. And Louisville. They're gonna have two sides, right?
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes down. But if you're Florida State and now that you've made the decision to say, hey, we're going full bore in D1, full scholarships or fully funded.
Right.
We have to use that. A lot of football people think, oh, they get 85 scholarships. Actually, no. So they're now a fully funded scholarship program for Division I. I think they have to go ACC because that's the conference their school is in. I don't know that they'll be exempt. I know that they have to take their time.
They've said they're going ACC. They're going to compete the 25-26 school year. So not this spring, but and the following fall, the fall of 25, they're going to compete in fall ball like every other school. And then the 26 will be their initial season. So I was having a little back and forth with your friend Lee from Florida Lacrosse News, and he came up with some nice stats. Because here's the roadmap I put out for Florida to be good, and that is use the 12.6 scholarships. Go ahead. What were you saying?
You said Florida State. You said Florida.
For Florida State to have success, that's early and sustain success. Number one, hire a really good coach. Okay. And hire a coach, but they have 12.6 scholarships. Use those to draw out of state girls. Use those to bring in from the hotbeds the girls. Use those for the transfers that you're going to need to get the team off the ground anyway. And, use that scholarship money to draw attention to Florida State and get them to Florida State. Get them to a big school with a great, big, huge football program in Florida. And then utilize Florida's bright futures. Florida State is a state school, which means if you have a good GPA, if you have a decent SAT score, and if you do 100 hours of community service, and that is not hard to accomplish in 4 years of high school, then you can get anywhere from 50 to 75% to 100% of your academics taken care of from the state of Florida if you're an in-state student. Why wouldn't you load up your roster with great players from the state of Florida and recruit great players from out of state and use as much scholarship money as you can to do that? The roadmap to success is pretty much there. I don't know why other teams don't do it. I have some ideas, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, to let you know that Florida, I think, is unique in their tuition remission, for lack of a better word, for their tuition breaks that they give in-state students for state schools.
Right.
So that's going to give them a leg up on the Florida kids, the Florida residency kids. The boom in the population of Florida is going to help also. And then I have two magic words for you, and you've already used them. Transfer portal.
Yes.
They are going to make good use of that. And who wouldn't? You say big time D1 football, that's 10 games a year, 6 home games. But what it is big time facilities, big time gear. Everybody loves,
Everybody
getting the
loves the gear.
swag. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize the transfer portal, because Clemson did the same thing.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of kids from top D1 schools who are flipping burgers or riding pine or bench warmers. I feel like Bennett Brower air quoting everything that I'm saying, but Bennett Brower aside, they are going to find some disgruntled top D1 players, maybe even from Boston College or Ivy League schools. Get them to come on down, give them a partial scholarship. Florida State's not going to set you back too much, and they can get a team on the field that can compete, much like Clemson did at a very, very early. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated. They're not going to win a national championship in the next 5 years, but they're going to be able to compete. And that's the lesson you want to send to kids.
Yeah, they'll compete. And so, Lee sent me and he said, the Florida Gators only have 2 Florida girls on their team. JU, Jacksonville women, and has 3, and Stetson has 5. And USF has not played, and they just kind of started. And, he said, why aren't other schools utilizing this? And I have no idea why. And I, here's the thing. Take a football mentality if you're the new Florida State women's coach. Own your backyard. Just say, we are going to be the premier school in the state of Florida. Own your backyard. Why Florida hasn't done that, I don't know. But when you talk about success, what success has Florida had on a national level? They're not a bad program. They're a good program. And I think they were probably ranked number 1 the year COVID ended the world. But other than that, they've fallen short of any great success when it comes down to Final Fours and or national championships.
I'll agree with that. I think that it's tough to really get in there and displace the higher ups. Penn State did a nice job. They got to a Final Four a couple of years ago with my dear friend Riley Masterson on the squad, but they don't go back on the reg, as the kids like to say now. Right. But obviously Boston College, they found a way to break through, in the last 8-10 years and make it. Maryland's always going to have a great team. Carolina, the great Jenny Levy, she's always going to have a great team. Kathy Reese at Maryland. If I'm going to name drop, I'm going to drop them all. So
I get it.
It'll be interesting to see how quickly Florida State and the environment and the facilities and the luxury of that Florida tuition program, how quickly Florida State can supersede a Virginia Tech or a Louisville. That's who they want to set their sights on first. And then take, UNC to a 15-12 game. You lose it, but you're still in it. And then, 4 years later, you're the one with 15 and they're the one with 12. If things all fall into place using the transfer portal and that tuition program that Florida has, that's unbelievable. Pretty unique.
And you can't compare them to anybody else. Right away, they're going to be their only competitor in the state of Florida should be Gainesville, and because Jacksonville and Stetson are private schools, so they can't utilize the Bright Futures to the capacity that the state schools can. And not to mention, they're just not big campuses, so it's a different feel, and they're not as good academically as Florida and Florida State are. And USF, it's the same deal with the campus. I mean, it's a football. It has football, but they play at Raymond James. They don't. It's like playing at Temple. Right. Not everything's on campus, and that. But again, they should be able to compete with Florida right away. And when I say right away, I mean in the first 36 months of the program. I mean, they should be able to get up there very quickly and then compete with those lower level ACC schools. And my question is this: Florida has all the talent. I keep saying this. From the boys' side and the girls' side, they have all the athletes. What they don't have is just great lacrosse players and lacrosse IQ yet, because they don't have the coaches, but it's getting better. It's getting better. It's getting better. But I have a theory on Florida men and women lacrosse players in the next 5 years. And that is that I think they're going to outperform the students who go from these hotbeds on the general masses, because their ceiling's higher. they haven't been coached. Okay, they haven't been, but they can run just as fast. They can jump just as high. They're great athletes on the boys' side, just phenomenal athletes on the boys' side. And on the girls' side, they're great athletes too, and they can play all year round. And I think Florida State's going to be a home run. Lee mentioned UCF. I'd try to get UCF too, because you can fly right into Orlando. It's easy for mom and dad to get to games. It's in the middle of the state. I think you're going to see a boom, and then somebody's going to have to break through on the boys' side and get a Division I program other than, Jacksonville, because it's just somebody's going to have to fight it. And I think Title IX should just completely kick football out, and because there's no comparable on the girls' side. Take those 85 scholarships out of it. They're pros now anyway with NIL. So, if you take the 85 scholarships out, can you imagine how many men's Division I programs would blow up immediately? I mean, you take Vanderbilt, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, all these schools. Clemson would have a great men's team. Wake Forest would probably get into the men's and women's game. But these are all good academic places that could blow up. And I just think Florida State's going to be the tip of the iceberg here.
And you talk about the sport of lacrosse, right or wrong, most top-notch D1 lacrosse schools, men's and women's, also happen to be excellent academic institutions. I heard you mention the name Lee Roggenberg. He is such a great, great guy and a tremendous resource for the state of Florida to use as somebody who really cares about it, and he does it on a daily basis. He's not a flash in the pan guy. He's in it for the long term. Lee is I talk to him once a week, and it's an absolute pleasure to go through old lacrosse memories and then try and see how lacrosse can grow and what it can become in the state of Florida. Because I think you, me, and Lee are in agreement that we're all thinking congruently, that Florida high school and rec and club ball can really take that next step that they haven't fully taken yet, but they will take that step and start producing those top Division I players year in, year out, year in, year out.
I agree. So I think it's time we're going to, we'll start talking a little bit lacrosse here and there. We're talking football, but we need some people to subscribe, and let's start talking to some guests. Maybe we'll get Lee on one day and get a couple other guests, and we can, talk to some people, utilize the people and the people I know for some football stuff, maybe in the next week or two.
Right. The other thing you mentioned was some things that are pissing you off. I mean, what's getting under your skin right now?
All right. So the thing that pissed me off today, and it's pissed me off a couple more times, why can't we make a wider, shorter, fatter jar of peanut butter? Why am I always getting peanut butter all over my goddamn hands trying to get that last few scoops out? Because we go through peanut butter around here like water. I mean, Dukesy and Jay, and I mean me, and I mean, why can't anybody just make a jar of peanut butter like this where I can get my fat fingers in there and get the rest of the peanut butter out?
It's called a knife.
Yeah, but you still got to they're this long. Have you seen how long the jar is? I mean, what are you going to do? Make a longer knife?
I agree with you. One of my pet peeves with the jarring world is, why do pickles have to come in heavy glass jars? Why can't they come in plastic?
Yeah, that you can open without,
Well, not even that, just the carrying it home from the market. Right. I go out to Publix or go someplace and buy a jar of pickles, and I'm like limping down the sidewalk to get into the apartment to put my pickles away. And it's because of the jar, not because of the pickles.
And I've got one more pet peeve, and it has to do with lacrosse. And I know that Instagram is now everybody's favorite thing, and all these clubs are doing these contests. Who's got the best uniform? Who's got the best helmet?
Right.
And they do all this nonsense. And they can, we're this part of the country, and everybody votes on the helmets and everything like that. I think Duke has been on two teams over the last 5 years where their helmets got into like the Final 8 or the Final 4 nationally. All those teams sucked at lacrosse. So I'd like to see the club stuff get away from that. Who's got the cool helmet and who's got this, and just kind of just focus on who's good, who's developing talent, and, you know, save the uniform crap for Maryland and Oregon and everybody else. But that's kind of my pet peeve on the constant emails and texts and IG reports. Vote for our team. I don't care what your helmet looks like.
Right. I'll agree with that. And you know, they go with, you know, the third helmet. How many heads do these kids all have? Just one head. I think you only need. I played college lacrosse with one helmet. Boy, I think I wore the same helmet every year.
Well, it was pretty thin, I can tell, but
Oh yeah, back rack, V mask, double chinnies. Yeah, we all knew how to rock it.
but anyway,
That's how life goes. That's our quick emergency broadcast. Florida State Seminoles, welcome to lacrosse. Yeah, exactly. When are they going to have to change the name now that they're
the Indian population, the American, you know, Native American population in Florida loves it. They
good.
They think it's an honor, and you know, they're going to keep that. They're going to keep controlling gambling in the state of Florida as well. So, all right, my man.
You got it. He's Bergie. I'm Booker. We do what we do. It's a great day for lacrosse when Florida State says they're going to start a varsity program, D1 program for girls. So congratulations to them. Glad to have everybody joining in.
Perfect.